for being here this evening. We have to make sure we are back in council here in about 20 minutes, so I will try to make my remarks as brief as I can. For the last 7 weeks, our city government has been focused on responding to the direct threat to public health posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Since I declared a local state of disaster on March 12th, we've taken extraordinary measures to protect our residents' health and safety, to increase the transparency around our collective response to the virus. But today, after weeks of intensive work by the new COVID-19 ad hoc committees that I created, the City of Dallas officially began the process of recovering and rebuilding. The City of Dallas City Council took several key votes today that will help people in our city deal with the effects that this unprecedented pandemic has had on all of us. And I'm proud to say that we are taking action. The City of Dallas expects to take a significant hit to its budget through the loss of sales tax revenue this fiscal year. Unlike the federal government, we have to balance our budget. And we can't simply print money here at City Hall the way the federal government can. Our budget pays primarily for essential personnel, such as police, firefighters, code compliance officers, parks, and other quality of life services. But we are putting the limited resources that we do have, including federal funding, to work for the residents of Dallas. We created and have now passed a package of relief measures for our residents and businesses that have been affected by the spread of COVID-19. First, we passed a small business continuity program. Through this program, and in combination with funding from our federal partners and private partners such as Goldman Sachs, we will distribute $5 million to local small businesses in the form of loans and grants. This money will go to businesses that can demonstrate a 25% drop in revenue because of COVID-19 and its associated restrictions. Small businesses are the lifeblood of the Dallas economy, and we will continue to look for ways to help our entrepreneurs who employ hundreds of thousands of people in our city. Second, we passed a mortgage and rental assistance program to help those affected by COVID-19. Through that $13.7 million program, we expect to help thousands of Dallas residents stay in their homes. And finally, we passed an ordinance to slow down the eviction process and encourage landlords and tenants to work together as they both faced hardships because of COVID-19. I want to commend our committee chairs who made this relief package possible. As I said during today's City Council meeting, it is important to have committee chairs who demonstrate leadership, sound judgment, and an understanding of the need to seek input from stakeholders and expertise. Chairman Casey Thomas, who leads our ad hoc committee on COVID-19 economic recovery and assistance, and Chairman Adam Magoo, who is also our deputy mayor pro tem, and who leads our ad hoc committee on COVID-19 human and social recovery and assistance, are here with me today and will talk a little about their work in just a few moments. Collectively, these measures represent a significant undertaking meant to help as many people as we can under the financial restraints that we have as a city. And we will continue to explore ways to help people recover and to provide vital city services. I want to say to our entire city that I understand that times are tough right now. COVID-19 has hit us all very hard. People are seeing pay cuts, furloughs, and even layoffs. Retirement accounts, if you have one, have almost certainly taken a hit. Parents are juggling work and taking care of their kids who aren't in school right now. And people are worried about the health and welfare of their parents. We're all growing weary of seeing our friends through video chats rather than in person. However, this will end. probably not all at once, and things may not be exactly as they were before, but our lives will go on. We are looking at how to move forward while maintaining public health as our primary concern, and I want to assure the residents of Dallas that your city leaders are doing all we can to help you recover and rebuild. I've been in touch regularly with County Judge Clay Jenkins, Governor Greg Abbott, Senator John Cornyn, Senator Ted Cruz, members of our congressional delegation, and local business leaders about how to move our city forward economically. We're also trying to make progress with testing. Walgreens this week will open a drive-through testing site in southern Dallas at 2060 South Buckner Boulevard. I advocated for this site through our federal partners, and I'm thrilled that we'll be adding testing capacity to our city, and we'll announce more details about that soon. This and other increases in testing, preventative measures such as frequent and thorough hand washing, and a continued emphasis on social distancing and physical distancing will be key. We must continue to heed the advice of doctors and analyze the best available data as we make decisions in the days and weeks ahead. I believe we are making progress every day, but I know every day during this pandemic feels like a week. These are undoubtedly difficult times that have shaken who we are and in many cases cast away the lives we had envisioned for ourselves this year. I know personally that this wasn't what any of us up here thought we'd be working on a year ago during the City Council campaign season. We all had big hopes and ambitions to help our city advance even further in what could only be described as a booming economy here in Dallas. We believed we were elected to fulfill our grandest visions and bring our boldest dreams to fruition. But our job now is to lead and to serve amidst a genuine crisis. And this moment demands that we rise to meet the challenges before us. And we will. And I believe that we've done so today. So I want to say thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Adam Magoo, who is also the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Dallas. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank all our first responders, all our hospital workers, teachers, and really thank all of you that are in this room today that are taking risks, knowing the impact this has on your family and just as it does all of us experiencing these times. It's hard sometimes to put to words what all we're working on and all the efforts we're taking to try to mitigate the impact on our community and our citizens. But I stand here today, I'm full of gratitude and full of hope. In just a short time on our committee, we have put some excellent work together from so many of those that are your elected officials in this city. Our both committees, and I thank our chairman, Mr. Casey Thomas, have put sort of our own lives totally aside for this and have spent countless hours working together. In the last just over a month, we've had over 5 committee meetings, which is not our normal process. But in those meetings, we've been able to complete needs assessments. We've been able to talk with stakeholders at every level of our community, impacted folks across our city. We've come back with needs. We've established collaborators. Each one of the council members on our committees have a certain area of focus that aligns with their strengths of their service, both pre-council and certainly in their time serving on council. We have been able to partner with our schools, our youth services, our hospitals, our first responders at every level, and we've seen fruit come from great relationships and great collaborations. One of those highlights comes from our work that we were able to pass today. We were able to pass a COVID notice of potential eviction that it gives some much needed assistance to our tenants across the city. those that are struggling because they've lost a job, been laid off, just not been able to work due to the shelter in place, now will have additional time in order to work out agreements with their landlords and with the people that they're renting from. And so we struck, I think, a good balance between protecting the needs and interests of those that run and operate our multifamily communities, as well as those that are residents. That's just one step, and there's a lot more. We can answer questions on that if you have them later. But we've also, just in a short amount of time, if you look back, between a good work of our city staff and our council members, we have stood up a homeless shelter at K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. Through the work of Councilmember Kara Mendelson, we have improved the 311 system to get information back out to community members in our city. Jaime Resendez has spent a great deal of effort working with our schools around youth services and working to connect the digital divide and get more access to students who are now taking so many online classes. He's continued to help with food insecurity and get food where it needs to be. I want to mention a program where we've partnered recently with Cafe Momentum here in downtown, who's hiring those that are been laid off in certain circumstances and with kids that they've worked with for many years to provide meals, and partnering with school districts, in this case Richardson Independent School District, to provide meals not only to the days when the kids are missing meals, but also on the weekends. And so support has come from everywhere. We have amazing philanthropic communities that have come alongside the work we've doing. I want to specifically mention United Way, Susan Hoff, Wendy Burton, Frostwall Booker Drew, so many that are connecting through North Texas Cares and other opportunities to work and serve and be flexible about how money has been spent and allocated to our nonprofits and those that need it, that are serving all those. I want to thank Chairwoman Gates, who's really worked with our hospital and healthcare systems to navigate all the different changes and make sure we're looking at the flattening the curve and the numbers that are out there. She's worked with Dr. Tim Bray through our committee to really look at some of those assumptions and make sure that we're getting the absolute best information that we can to our community and our city here in Dallas. There's a lot of great work that we're doing, but I also want to mention something that's coming up. What I've been hearing as much from some of the hospitals as some of the issues with COVID has been the need for mental health assistance. We are working now, and we'll get some more information tomorrow at our committee meeting from a group EdCore, who's working on putting a mental and behavioral health clinic in southern Dallas. They're partnering with UT Southwestern, with Dr. Trivedi, and a number of folks in the mental health area to look at those needs. We're getting just as many calls from folks that are struggling right now as anything else. And so we're going to be continuing to focus on that with some of our future work in our committee. Again, I want to thank the mayor for your confidence in me and in our council to take these issues and to move some of these issues forward as quickly as we possibly can. Dallas is a city where we love our neighbors. Sometimes that means showing up for each other, and sometimes it means staying home. But now more than ever, we need to care for each other in new ways, and I'm seeing that each and every day. Whether it's businesses changing their business model, neighbors coming out and helping, delivering services to some of those most in need, whether it's our seniors or children. We are all struggling in some way, but we all now get to be part of what I believe will be an amazing turnaround and will be part of creating a new Dallas and part of the greatest comeback in the history of our city. And that's exciting times, and I'm thankful to be doing that with my colleagues around this council, with Mayor Johnson, and with Chairman Casey Thomas, who I believe is coming up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Magoo. Thank you, Mayor Johnson, for your leadership. In a short period of time, the council has been given a challenge, given an assignment by our mayor to lead the effort for social and economic recovery. The mayor charged me as chair with the responsibility of making sure that our business community is brought back alive and once again has an opportunity to thrive. I want to thank several of the colleagues who serve on the Economic Recovery Committee. Councilmember Chad West has done a great job leading up the effort for our small businesses, hosting teletown halls for small business owners with the Small Business Administration, making sure that they know what's required and expected of them. Also, some of our businesses that are Spanish-speaking only, making sure they have that information as well. Mayor Pro Tem Adam Madrano, who's in constant contact with our chambers of commerce, making sure that they're informed of what the city is doing. The city is aware of the resources that are available, our loans, grants, and things of that nature. Today, we passed two extremely important items that's going to benefit our residents. The mayor spoke about one in particular. We're calling this Putting Our People First, Dallas's Economic Recovery Package. We talked about the rental and mortgage assistance recovery. That's going to provide an opportunity for individuals who have lost a job at no fault of their own to have an opportunity to get rental assistance. That's going to be assist in helping them get through this crisis. These dollars will go directly to the landlord or to the bank or to the utility company. And so very soon, you'll be hearing more information about this particular program that we launched and approved today. And then secondly, we've been hearing from our small businesses and how bad they're hurting. And we feel their pain. And so in an effort to address that, we passed today a $5 million initiative, what we call our Small Business Continuity Fund. $2.5 million grants for our small businesses, $2.5 million loans for our small businesses, $1.25 million in grants set aside for businesses that represent historically underutilized communities. We want to make sure everyone has a fair opportunity to come out of this better than before. I have a saying, leaders lead during a crisis, and I've seen all 15 of my colleagues, 14 colleagues and the mayor lead in a way in which we would not have had an opportunity to show our leadership skill before that. Councilmember Bazadua leads our effort with hotels and restaurants. Councilmember Kleiman, we know he's the watchdog. He's making sure our budget is not impacted any more than it has to be throughout this process. Councilmember Blackman is making sure that we know what state and federal dollars are available. Our mayor is making sure that he's in constant contact with our state and our federal elected officials and government to where we get all the resources here that we need in order to make sure we serve you. Dallas is a resilient city. Dallas has always been a resilient city, and only when you get hit do you get a chance to show how strong you are. And Dallas will bounce back as Dallas has never done before. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll open it up to questions if anyone has any.
How many businesses and individuals do y'all look to help with these floods when it comes to have the numbers?
The question is, how many businesses and individuals can we help with this? I don't know if either of you two want to address. Casey, you want to take that?
Sure. With the small business grant, we're talking about up to $10,000 out of $2.5 million. And so we're looking at several hundred businesses being able to benefit. With the loans, $50,000 out of the $2.5 million. Same thing, hundreds of businesses. And so we can do the simple math and see that we are committed to making sure that every business has an opportunity to benefit from these funds that meet the criteria and qualifications.
Go ahead. I'll repeat it back. Yeah. Right, and I actually got your email about that. I just haven't had a chance to work through it yet. He can answer that as well, but I'll tell you, we had a complication on the spreadsheet that we're working on. We have seen an increase in testing. Some private labs, the numbers dropped off a little bit, but we've also seen a big increase in the federal tests, which aren't reported the same way to the city. So some of those specimens might be taken. They may be included in those numbers, they may not be. That's the explanation that I've been given. So we're still getting the reports, but we're kind of working through a few issues right now. Do you want to add anything else, or you got to take the mask off?
I'll just briefly say that one of the things that I thought was very important during this pandemic was for the city of Dallas to be a national leader in transparency around this disease and how it spreads. I was not happy with the information that was not available about testing availability in the city. So one of the 2 orders that I made related to public health were around testing, and I wanted to make sure that we had an idea, at least in the city of Dallas, all the testing that was being done by public or private labs. So that's something that we've been collecting from the very beginning. Essentially, my first order included that requirement, and if there's any technical breakdowns or any day that we don't report it, it's because we haven't received it or there's some sort of technical glitch. But it's something that's still being required by the city that everybody report that information to us. And I just think that's really important because I've always believed that in a situation like this, more information is better, and it helps people process what's going on. They feel more in control when they have that information, and that overall is a good thing. Not everybody saw it that way, actually, initially. Some people were concerned about reporting that information for whatever reason, but I thought it was very important that people in Dallas know what the situation was with respect to testing, and hopefully, we're doing everything we can as a city. It's limited what we can do. We're not our own health authority. We don't operate our own health authority like they do in some Texas cities. San Antonio, Austin, for example. We rely on the county for help, but I thought it was very important that we do what we could to try to increase testing here. So I reached out to our federal partners and to Walgreens to try to bring us additional testing, particularly in the southern part of our city, since we know that there appear to be some disparities in terms of who's not only contracting the virus, but who's actually perishing from the virus. So we wanted to make sure that we had testing in some of our more vulnerable communities from a health standpoint, and that's why that first Walgreens location in North Texas is coming to southern Dallas. So that's. We've had good compliance with the requirement. The only issue with it is this. The way it's reported is private labs who are doing the testing themselves in the city of Dallas, who have their labs physically in the city of Dallas, are subject to our order. We have jurisdiction over them. The county is complying with sending us their testing results from the public health lab that they operate. But specimens that are collected at our mobile testing sites that are then sent off site out of the city of Dallas to be processed are not reflected in our testing numbers. We collect those specimens, and so we know how many specimens we've collected, but there's not a perfect alignment with the tests that are performed, because they're not performed here. And that's just a matter of how our jurisdiction works and what we can reach. So it's not perfect, but it gives us a better sense than pretty much anybody else has got of how much testing is going on in the city.
On that note, Mr. Mayor, can you talk about how your specific regulations, your local disaster regulations, how you see those moving forward? We heard Judge Jenkins yesterday say he expects some of his local regulations, like staying at home, wearing masks, moving forward, despite what everybody does. Can you give us an insight into how you're thinking your regulations rolling forward?
Okay, I want to do something that I think is really important to do. We just had a conversation at the council about this, and I think this might be the last question I can take before I have to go convene the meeting again. But there is a difference between being under a state of disaster, which I declared on March 12th, and any orders that have been issued pursuant to that declaration of disaster. So I declared a disaster on March 12th, and the City Council moved to extend that disaster declaration just now, actually, to match whatever the governor of Texas orders at the state level in terms of the duration of the state of disaster. So now we are going to be aligned in Dallas with the state of Texas in terms of the duration of the disaster. That is not the same thing as saying we are going to extend any stay-at-home orders or any other orders to that date. That's a different question. As of right now, the current order that is in place that I've issued 4. 2 of them were the ones I mentioned before. One that orders testing, the other that orders, so we have a testing one, and we have one that's related to what's the hospitalizations in terms of ICU beds and ventilators was the second public health order, and the rest were just aligning the city of Dallas with Dallas County and a couple of sort of city government housekeeping items. So the cancellation of board and commission meetings for the time being, the cancellation of standing committees for the time being. So our orders from a public health standpoint are basically the same as the county's orders. But now what has to happen is if there's going to be any extension of those public health orders, like the stay-at-home orders, beyond the date that was in our last order, which was April 29th, that is going to have to be done on an emergency basis by either the city manager under our city code, or I could do it under state law. But essentially what we've decided is to keep things as close to as normal course of business at the city of Dallas. Those will be made by the city manager in consultation with the city council. So the decision to extend stay at home beyond the 29th is a decision that will be made by the city manager in consultation with the council pursuant to city code. So that's a long answer, but that is the absolute factual situation that we're in. So that's the next step, is to determine after April 29th if we're going to extend any of those orders. But that's different than the disaster declaration itself, which we've agreed to extend today to match the state's disaster declaration. Well, I think we're going to ask people to do is to follow the guidance from our local health authority. We have very, very talented doctors over at the county. Dr. Wong is someone I think everyone knows now by name. That's who we look to for guidance, and we are going for on health issues. And we look to the state and the doctors there as well. So that is our situation in terms of where we get our expertise from. I'm not an epidemiologist or a doctor of infectious disease or anything like that. So I won't be recommending anything different than what our public health authorities recommend. But I can tell you this, everybody up here would like to see things get to normal as quickly as possible. We want to get back to work. We want to reopen our economy, and we want to get our lives back on, but we want to do that responsibly. And I think my personal belief is that that's what everybody wants, and there maybe is some there's some politics going on in terms of how people are talking about this, but I think everyone wants to get back to normal. We're just going to make sure here in Dallas that we recommend to people what's safe for them to do.
How are you moving to better collaborate with a regional response when there are these conflicting orders or confusion? How are you working with Judge Jenkins? How are you working with other city mayors in the region to make sure that there is a unified response?
This is really the last one I can take, but I kind of alluded to that before when I said what we've done. I've issued very limited orders on purpose because I think that the county is setting the pace on the public health aspect, and we are just keeping pace with the county to make sure that all of Dallas is in alignment with the county, because there are parts of Dallas that aren't in Dallas County, and if we don't issue orders to align those parts of our city, they'll be under different rules. And so that's what we've been doing. That's what we'll continue to do. We'll continue to try to keep alignment there. But the bottom line is we've been in constant communication, the county judge and I. We can't really control what other jurisdictions do, what mayors out in Tarrant County do and other things, but we've tried to keep a very close alignment with the county and to make sure that folks who live in Dallas aren't subject to confusing and different orders. And that's also what we attempted to do today by making our disaster declarations expiration line up with the state of Texas to minimize confusion.
Sure. Well, do you guys have to get back to the council meeting?
I need to.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. I can follow up with you about that. We do have a timeline. I think the application process, if you guys want to go ahead and go, I'll just. All right. But yeah, by June 15th.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're looking to be very aggressive with this. We got this to full council in 4 weeks, which for city government is unusual. We're looking, and this is all tentative, for the actual application to go live on March 4th. And then between March 4th, May 4th. May 4th, and between May 4th and May 11th will be the window for businesses to submit applications. We're looking at the 15th as when we'll begin reviewing those applications. And once again, this is tentative. June 15th is the day in which we expect to begin making our payouts. So that's our tentative timeline. That's it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Is there any information right now about more money, federal dollars that there could be a right. Well, we're hoping, as you probably know, the Senate just passed a bill, and hopefully the House will be passing that same bill on tomorrow. And we're hoping that we can get some of those funds here as soon as possible. That way we can supplement and add to the funds that we already have, the $5 million, which is from the CARES Act funds. And we'll be able to get more dollars from the federal government so we can continue to make sure our businesses have a chance to thrive and be successful. And what's the process to make sure that it's distributed fairly? Well, that's what our CFO will be doing in making sure that in terms of the dollars, but our Office of Economic Development will have a process in place. We want to make sure people are thorough in completing the application. We're going to use our social media. We're going to use our email list. We're going to use all of our means of communication in order to make sure every business knows what the qualifications are, what the criteria is, and they get a chance to complete and submit their application in a timely manner, and first come, first serve. As you know, once the funds are gone, the funds are gone.
I think you also mentioned earlier the $1.25 million that's set aside for historically underinvested communities. So there's an element of fairness built into that, I think, but you also have to ensure that the process is solid, and we'll be doing that. Are there any other questions or anything that you think? I think they apply, right? I mean, they apply for a grant or a loan depending on their needs, right? Yeah, it's part of the application process.
Let me ask one more question about renters. I know that there are people who are suffering who are not, $69,000 income, family of four. What would you say to them who are not getting any assistance? I know that it's stipulated because of HUD, right? It's federal money, it's for specific requirements, but there's still a lot of people who are hurting who are not being reached by this.
Right. Chairman Thomas, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure.
I think Chairman McGee will also.
Yeah, and he wants to add to it. One of the main things that we want to do is we want to be also a resource. We have a resource guide, and I think that's something that Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Magoo's committee has done an excellent job of making sure prior to the city having funding available that we make sure that all our residents know that there are other funds that are available to provide assistance for them. And he may want to speak about that, the resource guide that's available.
I mean, the real answer is we're just not going to have enough funds for everybody. And so we've got to try to use what we have strategically. And that's why we spent a lot of time on this ordinance to give landlords and tenants more time to negotiate payment plans and lease modifications or whatever the case may be. Because while we are encouraging, we built protection into this ordinance also to help those that will make application and fit the requirement to get some of the rental assistance. A lot of this is just going to be the negotiation between landlords and tenants, extending that amount of time, and hopefully working out agreements that can keep people in their homes, because we're still asking folks to stay in their homes. We need to try to help make that available as much as we can.
All right, anything else? I know Deputy Mayor Pro Tem has to get back to the meeting. There's still more meeting to have, so anyone? All right, well, thank you for coming out. I will take any follow-up questions that you have if you want to email or call me. We appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.